I was just sad and disappointed and angry, and that caused for the fighting and the, everything that happened that shouldn't have happened.
I'm not your typical murderer, not someone that you see on Saturday. He said, "You're just a hillbilly from Kentucky." And I am. I guess just a hillbilly came out of me.
I'll videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just know her boyfriend. Yeah, you did.
Many people have an idea in their mind of what a brutal killer is supposed to look like. They're supposed to give off some sort of red flag and seem crazy, unhinged, and violent. While this is sometimes the case, not every killer fits the typical mold that you will expect. Sometimes they are disguised as beautiful young women who don't look like they would hurt a fly. The following stories tell the tale of 3 beautiful women who took the lives of their lovers.
Yes, I just saw someone jump out of their window out of probably the 17th, 19th floor of the University Club Tower apartments at 17th and Denver.
The name of that place is University
Club. The glass broke and he fell down.
Okay.
What you just heard was a 911 call from someone who just witnessed something horrific. It was what appeared to be someone trying to take their own life by jumping out of the window of their luxurious high-rise apartment located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But the truth of what happened is more complicated than it may even seem. It was the year 2011, and Amber Hilberling and her husband Josh Hilberling's one idyllic marriage was in shambles. At one point, they had been the kind of couple that when you looked at them, you couldn't help but envy how in love they were and how perfect they were for one another.
I think about Josh every day. He was charming and irritating and smart and funny and annoying, and he was a good man. He was all these things that I'm not, and I'm all these things he wasn't, and we complemented each other.
But Josh and Amber's relationship could also get pretty rocky and dramatic at times. This was definitely impacted by the fact that they were both big partiers and liked to partake in illegal drugs. In fact, Amber would be the first person to admit that things were pretty toxic between them.
We drove each other crazy because of it.
It was a toxic love. It was a dangerous love, but it was love.
We weren't blind to the fact that we probably shouldn't be together. I mean, we talked about it often, but you can't help who you love.
Now, if you're thinking that this sounds like a recipe for disaster, well, you'd be right. But it wasn't a disaster that happened overnight. It was something that progressed over time. When Amber was 19 years old, she ended up getting pregnant, and that changed everything for her. She was ready to grow up, start taking responsibility, and get her life together. She expected for Josh to do the same thing for the sake of their unborn child. But to her disappointment, Josh didn't seem ready to give up the partying lifestyle quite yet.
I was just sad and disappointed and angry, and that caused for the fighting and the, everything that happened that shouldn't have happened.
Then came June 7th of 2011, a day that Amber and many others would never be able to forget. That was the day that Josh's life would come to a very tragic end, and very unexpected end. Dan Holloway of Tulsa law enforcement hasn't forgotten that day either.
I got a call of a possible DOA, which is dead on arrival. We didn't know if we had a suicide or an accident or exactly what had happened.
It was a domestic case. It was a falling case from a very high distance, and you don't see that very often.
Josh had fallen out of the window of the 17th story of the building, so obviously falling from such a high distance meant that his body was in pretty bad shape.
When somebody falls from that far, he's really broken. They just look like clothes on the ground. But you could tell that was a human being at one time, and that kind of makes an impression upon you.
When officers arrived at the scene, they found a very distraught Amber, who had just made a very disturbing confession to her grandma. She said she pushed Josh.
Amber was standing over there, and when she seen me, she grabbed a hold of me and said, "Grandma, he's dead." And she said, and I pushed him, and I said, "Do what?"
So clearly, detectives pretty much knew immediately that Amber would be the main focus of their investigation. She and her grandmother were both taken in for questioning.
They put me in the front seat. I wasn't under arrest. And let my grandma come and sit in the interview room. Of course, I thought they were just being the good guys and wanted the truth.
Sitting in an interrogation room, Amber sobbed as she talked about the moment she realized that her husband was gone.
All I kept seeing, I just held his broken body.
While this was going on, I was just writing my reports and started overhearing some of this stuff and had the recorder turned on so we could start recording the information that she was saying.
Amber admits that she pushed Josh, but that she never intended for him to fall through the glass and out of the window.
At least if I can go back and take back the push, at least I can save him.
The push.
The push, I pushed him against the wall and he... Oh my God.
At this point, it was just Amber and her grandma in the interrogation room, but she was spilling her guts as if detectives weren't listening in on their conversation from the other room. She wasn't making herself look very good, but she also hadn't been told that she was being recorded.
I killed him.
Stop talking like that.
Amber's mom, Rhonda, says that her daughter was never read her Miranda rights when all this was going on. This may have been why Amber felt like she had no choice but to start telling her version of events, even though she had no lawyer present.
You're supposed to be read your rights in America. You have the right to this and the right to this and right. They didn't do any of that.
Looking back afterward, Amber realized that she was still processing what had just happened, and by talking out loud, she was unintentionally incriminating herself.
I just want to go back. Please, I just want to go back and just not push him, just catch him, something.
I'm in shock, and I'm going back and forth in my mind between this is what just happened, and this is why, and this is what's going to happen afterwards. And I mean, all these things are kind of coming out of my mouth at once.
Amber was arrested the following day and charged with Josh's murder. It didn't take long for the case to become a media frenzy, with lots of people coming to their own conclusions about what happened.
Bombshell tonight. Witnesses say they see 23-year-old Josh Hilberling fall from the couple's high-rise. 25 stories to his death. But tonight, cops say it was no accident. There was no fall. His new bride pushed him to his death.
The fact that Amber was 7 months pregnant at the time that Josh either fell or pushed made the story all the more dramatic and intriguing. People just couldn't get enough of this couple and their tragic end to their love story. So much so that they were willing to believe rumors before finding out the truth.
Amber was painted as like a horrible, spoiled, rich spouse. Josh was painted as a military hero.
But according to those close to Amber, Josh was no hero and not the person that the media portrayed him to be. In fact, he was kicked out of the military because he was manufacturing drugs.
They would put Josh's uniform picture up and they'd put Amber in a white shirt, accidentally pulling her jacket back, and they're like, look, she's trying to show cleavage.
People already believed that Amber was guilty, so they picked apart everything that she said and did, and even what she wore.
If I didn't dress up enough for court, then I was trashy and obviously guilty. And if I did, then I was some hoity-toity, snooty, rich girl that had no remorse for her situation.
Because of how she had been portrayed in the media, Amber's family says that she was already guilty in the court of public opinion.
I have no problem telling you when Amber's wrong. And she has done some stupid stuff, but she wasn't a murderer.
Throughout the trial, if Amber wanted to avoid being convicted of murder, she would need to convince the jury that she only pushed Josh in self-defense. Ultimately, she wasn't able to do that, and the jury convicted her of Josh's murder. In April of 2013, Amber was sentenced to 25 years behind bars. Here she was, at such a young age, a new mom with a baby that she had just given birth to a short time after all of this happened, and now she was going to be spending more than 2 decades behind bars. The reality of Amber's life could very quickly consume her, and that would be hard to live with. But Amber remained focused and was determined to keep her positive attitude alive.
You have to build walls up around your heart, around your soul, around everything that matters to you, and live in a shell outside of all of that to survive this. Showing vulnerability in this type of place, it only gives people room to prey on you, more or less. So to avoid that, you kind of have to put air in your chest and walk around like you got this when you really don't got this.
Amber says that she doesn't want to try to convince anyone that she was just an innocent victim in all of this, and admits that both she and Josh made mistakes.
I've never tried to make it sound like he's just the big bad wolf and I'm Little Red Riding Hood that's running for her life. It wasn't like that. We were both young and we were both selfish in our emotions because we were young.
This case has an ending that nobody seen coming. Amber Hilberling only made it to the age of 25. In 2016, a guard went into her prison cell and found her dead. It was determined that she took her own life.
The Department of Correction told me today that Hilberling was pronounced dead in her cell yesterday afternoon at the Maybe Bassett Correctional Center. The defense attorney who represented her, Clark Brewster, said that prison officials called Hilberling's mother yesterday to break the news.
Despite the fact that the prison officials say there's no doubt that Amber took her own life, her family has always questioned if this is really the truth. They say that while it was hard for her to be away from her family, she would not have done this to herself. Even to this day, many people have mixed beliefs about what actually happened to Amber and what was going through her mind during the final moments of her life.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder.
Guilty! The woman who shot her boyfriend because he was about to ditch her for a Miss USA contestant sobs as she is convicted of murder.
In October of 2021, Shaina Hubers became a prime example of what can happen when jealousy gets out of control. In her case, it had an extremely deadly consequence and led to the brutal murder of a bright young lawyer named Ryan Poston. When Shaina first met Poston, she was just 20 years old and had a lot of things going for her. She was smart, beautiful, and had a bright future. Just like 28-year-old Ryan, she had a lot of great things going for her. But her infatuation with Ryan led her down a dark path. When Shaina looked at Ryan, she saw all the things she knew a lot of other women would also see. He was incredibly good-looking, talented, and successful. But the thought of having to share Ryan with anyone was absolutely devastating to her. This made her incredibly possessive, controlling, and jealous. These were qualities about her that Ryan definitely didn't like, and they led to a lot of drama and other problems within their relationship. As a result, their relationship was very on again, off again. By October of 2012, it seemed as if Ryan had finally cut things off with Shaina for good and was ready to move on. In fact, he had already started talking to someone else, and not just anyone, but Ohio's 2021 Miss USA. Her name was Audrey Bolt, and he had made plans to go on a date with her. But unfortunately, Ryan would never make it to that date with Audrey because it was scheduled for the same night that his life ended up getting cut short. Shaina, who was always trying to control all aspects of Ryan's life, didn't move on from her possessive ways just because they had broken up. She would still hack into his social media sites and his emails to see what he was doing and who he was talking to. That was how she ended up finding out about Audrey.
She broke into his email, his Facebook by her own admission, and tried to scare away other women that were interested in him, and was totally jealous when she found out he had a date with Miss Ohio the night he was murdered. Very well the last straw.
Shaina flew into a jealous rage and was prepared to do absolutely anything to stop the date from happening. So she went to Ryan's condominium and confronted him. They began arguing. One thing led to another before she grabbed a weapon and fired it at Ryan 6 times, killing him. She then called 911 and claimed it was self-defense.
I grabbed the and
When officers arrived at the scene, they warned Shaina that anything she said could be used against her in court, so she didn't have to answer any questions. But Shaina was almost too willing to start spilling her guts. While she told detectives that her relationship with Ryan had been abusive and that she was defending herself, she also made some pretty incriminating statements about Ryan. She even said that when she fired the weapon in his face, that she gave him the nose job that he always wanted. But that was just the beginning of the weird and suspicious things Shaina said and did after killing Ryan. Just listen to her go into gory detail about what happened in the seconds after she fired that weapon in his face and what she was thinking.
I thought, oh my God, what have I done? You know? And he was laying with his face on the table, like twitching. And so I knew he was going to die. A very slow and painful death. I knew he was already dead. You know, within the next 20 seconds. Within the next 2 minutes, I knew he was going to be dead.
This interview was conducted immediately after all of this happened. Most people in her position, or at least the position she was claiming to be in, would be absolutely traumatized and in shock. They would probably be freaking out, but not Shaina. She is as calm as can be while she is being interrogated. The detectives aren't having to pump her for information either. She's very talkative and open about what happened. She admitted that she only fired the weapon again 5 more times because she believed that he was suffering and she was trying to put him out of his misery.
And he was in a lot of pain. He was twitching, he was moaning, but he was ultimately dead. And so, enough time to kill him so that he wouldn't suffer. At that point, a few more times.
Throughout the interrogation, Shaina often uses the phrase, you know, and seems to be trying to justify every single thing she has done.
I'm not your typical murderer. No, not someone that you see on death row. He said, you're just a hillbilly from Kentucky. And I am. I guess just a hillbilly came out of me.
Even when the detectives would briefly leave the interrogation room, Shaina would keep talking only to herself. The smart thing for her to have done was to be quiet and wait for a lawyer. But instead, she continued talking for a full 3 hours, and everything she said was captured on surveillance.
The worst thing I haven't done my whole life. But I feel like it's bad that part of me doesn't feel bad about it. And a part of me does, you know what I mean? And part of me is like, he hit me, he threw me.
In December of 2012, Shaina was arrested and charged with Ryan's murder. Her bond was set at a whopping $5 million. Even though it wouldn't be until 2 years later that she faced trial, she had to spend those 2 years behind bars because she wasn't able to come up with the $5 million needed to bond out. Shaina pleaded not guilty to all the charges against her and always maintained that everything she had done in self-defense. While she never took the stand in her own defense, the jury was shown all of that footage from after her arrest, where she did plenty of talking. Finally, the case went to the jury, who would ultimately decide whether this was truly self-defense or if Shaina was guilty of murder. It took them 5 hours of deliberating to come to their decision, and when they finally did, people packed inside the courtroom anxious to hear what the verdict was going to be.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Shaina Hubers, guilty of murder under instruction number 5.
Guilty. Shaina sobbed onto her lawyer's shoulder as the verdict was read. But not only was she guilty, but the jury wanted her to do major time behind bars.
And there were audible gasps in court as the jury decided Shaina Hubers' sentence today.
We, the jury, fix the defendant, Shaina Hubers' punishment for the offense of murder at life imprisonment.
Shaina appealed the verdict and was granted a second trial, which took place in 2018. Once again, the jury found her guilty and she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Shaina will have to serve at least 17 years behind bars before she is eligible for parole. She remains locked up in the Kentucky Correctional Institute for Women, which is exactly where Ryan's loved ones think she needs to stay.
Ryan believed in the justice system. Always, always. And it has not failed him.
We are learning more this morning about the social media star now accused of murdering her boyfriend. She was arrested in Hawaii, and now authorities are releasing new video evidence in the case.
Feel my arm. What, ma'am? My boyfriend is dying. Ma'am.
This next case has been discussed in the media a lot, with many following along and waiting for justice to be served. It happened back in 2022, but there have been some pretty shocking and dramatic updates going on recently. Now, even the alleged killer's mom and dad have been brought into the mix. So let's take a look back at what happened and see where this case is at now. Courtney Clenny, whose real name is Courtney Taylor, is a famous Instagram model who is known for her OnlyFans account. She is accused of killing her boyfriend, Christian Ombuselli, with a knife during a fight inside of their Miami high-rise apartment. But she claims that it was self-defense and Christian came after her first.
Authorities say the staff at the couple's building documented so many loud arguments, they were taking steps to evict them.
This was definitely not the first loud and public fight that Christian and Courtney had gotten into. They were known for having a very toxic relationship, and their loud arguments were disturbing to their neighbors. Law enforcement had been called to speak to them before.
All right, so what do you want to say?
I want to be like, I want to be like exonerated, I guess, of like anything wrong.
Newly released body camera video shows OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny asking to be exonerated just days before her boyfriend was in their Miami condo.
Courtney was known for getting violent and aggressive with Christian in the past, and it seems like there was no shortage of red flags associated with their relationship. But had anyone actually expected it to lead to a tragic ending like this? Listen carefully to Courtney's reaction when she finds out that the man she's supposedly in love with is dead.
Unfortunately, the doctors did what they could.
Christian is dead. Oh my God.
Despite the fact that Courtney was being investigated in connection with Christian's death, she didn't seem upset about what happened. She ended up flying out to Hawaii just days later and vacationing. She might have thought that there would be less of a chance of her being recognized there than there was in Miami, but it didn't take long for someone to realize who she was and call her out. That video later showed up on social media.
I'll videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. You just know my boyfriend. Yeah, you did.
Not long after, Courtney was arrested and officially charged with Christian's murder.
This morning, social media personality and OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny, also known as Courtney Taylor, has made her first court appearance in Hawaii after being charged in the murder of her boyfriend. Investigators releasing this video from earlier this year.
It's the video that had everyone talking about this case. Taken just a short time before the murder, it shows Courtney attacking Christian and makes her look extremely guilty.
They say it shows Clenny repeatedly punching boyfriend Christian Ubumseli inside a private elevator in their Miami high-rise.
Courtney had gotten into legal trouble for domestic violence once before that day that Christian was killed. This was for a different incident that happened in Las Vegas.
My boyfriend and I just got into like a loud argument.
The video begins at a Las Vegas hotel after Courtney Clenny called security from her room. Her boyfriend, 27-year-old Christian Ubumseli, says Courtney had just thrown a glass at him.
She admitted that she had gotten violent with Christian but denied ever truly wanting to hurt him.
I decided to call because we were getting really loud. It wasn't because I was like scared or anything. You wouldn't hurt me.
Did you throw a bottle at him or a glass at him? You say you've done it before.
Yes.
Unsurprisingly, law enforcement didn't see it that way, and Courtney was soon after arrested.
There's the glass cup.
I don't feel that I should be getting arrested at all right now.
She's put in manacles.
Is this like a overnight ordeal?
12-hour hold.
12-hour hold? Okay, there's a lot that
that happened that I didn't say.
As soon as she found out she was going to jail, she quickly tried to change her story.
You'll get to see a judge.
The video was shot in July last year. The case was later dismissed.
Looking back now and considering all that has happened since, most people would probably agree that the first case against Courtney should have never been dismissed. If it hadn't been, there's a good chance that Christian could still be alive today. Courtney has continued to claim her innocence and is awaiting trial.
Clearly, none of this was intended, and Courtney is struggling mentally with the aftermath of what occurred that evening. This is a tragedy for all involved, but it was not criminal conduct. Courtney was defending herself, and the investigation will reveal exactly that.
But in the meantime, there has been even more evidence that has recently come out that has definitely painted Courtney in a bad light and possibly even hurt her defense. It's a pretty upsetting video that was allegedly taken by a friend who was with the couple in Aspen, Colorado in 2022. Neither one of them seemed to be aware that they are being filmed at the time.
I was sober for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And then why am I not sober? Because I'm you. Please don't. But you're hindering my progress.
You need to sit down. You need to sit down.
Let go of me. Let go of me. Let go of me.
Okay.
Come on, boy. Let go of me. Like, I can't even, like, I was talking to him later. Like, get the off me. Christian, he saw me, and I know he's looking. Like, fed up with you. I'm fed up.
So in that video, Courtney appears to be intoxicated and is blaming Christian by saying that she broke her sobriety because of him. They also seem to be arguing about someone else, with Courtney accusing Christian of being unfaithful and him denying it.
I didn't let her say anything.
I didn't say
You did.
Hey, let's go to Malone right now. Let's pull up her.
No, I'm just gonna hear the scene.
No, she's in the group chat. Let's put her on the phone right now.
You dare.
Anyone watching these video clips can see that, at least in this situation, Courtney was the aggressor. She is on camera Christian, and while he tries to block her blows, he doesn't hit her back. We can now probably expect that this is a clip that will be shown to the jury during Courtney's trial, and it's not going to make her look very good. Now, Courtney's parents, Deborah Clenny and Kim Clenny, have been arrested and charged in connection to the case as well. They're accused of taking Christian's laptop after their daughter allegedly killed him. This is a problem because there could be evidence on that laptop that could be used against Courtney. They have each been charged with unauthorized access of a computer system, or electronic device of Christian Ombuseli.
I do think it may have been mutually physical, but you have to remember that he weighed, what, 220
pounds.
230 pounds? And she weighed 150.
Did she ever tell you she feared he would kill her?
Yes, he almost did.
Deborah and Kim say that their daughter has had to defend herself against Christian in the past. In fact, they say he nearly killed her just a short time before his alleged murder.
A couple weeks before that, she said that she was passing out. He was her, and she said that it was going through her mind, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna have to plan my funeral.
But was Courtney telling the truth? Could this be a case of two people who were equally toxic and violent against one another? Or was Courtney the aggressor who ultimately killed her boyfriend in a fit of rage? Well, she has pleaded not guilty, but she has also recently gotten with some new charges, including interception of wire or electronic communication and unauthorized use of an electronic device, which was for taking Christian's laptop. So if anything, things are continuing to look even worse for her. We don't know yet when this case is going to go to trial, but considering how much information there is to sort through, it could still be a while. Courtney will have to remain behind bars in the meantime. As for Christian's family, they haven't been able to fully mourn him yet because they don't have justice and they don't have all the answers they are looking for when it comes to how he died and why.
Devastation doesn't quite describe what my family is experiencing right now. Yesterday, we finally told our 93-year-old grandmother that her grandson, who was expected to come home to Texas to visit for his 28th birthday, will no longer or ever be returning home.
To many people who have followed along, this is just a tragic case involving two strangers. For Christian's family, this was their loved one who died in an incredibly painful and horrific way. Not only that, but the details involving him and his life have been publicized for all to see.
We have not had an opportunity to even start to grieve the loss of our family, of our brother, cousin, son.
But Christian's loved ones are relieved to know that as for now, Courtney will stay locked up. At least they know that his alleged killer is not going to be out living her life and enjoying herself, while they know that Christian will never get a chance to do the same.
They are very grateful, and their faith in this system has been renewed.
Relief from the family of Christian Obumseli after a Miami-Dade judge announced Courtney Clenny would remain behind bars until her murder trial begins.
But until this trial begins, we really don't know how this case could end up. It could go in a lot of different directions. If Courtney is convicted of Christian's murder, there is a good chance that she could be spending the rest of her life in prison. Do you think she's guilty? If so, what sort of sentence does she deserve? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.